A while ago, I read Tom King's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which was such a phenomenal story, and being almost completely unfamiliar with the character of Supergirl, I thought that it was an interesting introduction to the character. It didn't drag too much on her backstory, which I find a lot more engaging when reading a superhero story, because honestly, I don't know why, but I'd rather get right into the meat of the hero and have some backstory sprinkled in, which this story does phenomenally. In the story, we aren't even on Earth, we're traveling through the universe and seeing unique locations rather than just seeing Metropolis or National City. In this story, we get to focus on who Supergirl is rather than the other heroes in the DC universe that tend to take up a lot of space. Yeah. And that's the thing I like the most about this story. I get to learn that Supergirl is not Superman, and in this story they tackle the impact of Superman in her life and how she differs from him. She's a lot more edgier than he is, and I didn't know that. And oh my god, the art by Bilquis Evely is so unique and flows so well with the story being told, and don't even get me started on the colors of this comic. There are so many vibrant colors that complement so well with the rest of the art. I swear during this run, every single color has its time to shine. I swear, just trust me and read it, please. I can confidently say that this story is one of my favorite comics of all time, and to make this even greater under James Gunn's new DCU slate, they're making a movie inspired off of this comic. So having this much praise for a character I don't know much about besides this comic leads to a single conclusion. Read more about this character. So I went up to read two stories. This one I got from a dope ass comic book store. You know what I think about this one? The other one I began reading was Supergirl 1996. Now, one thing to understand about these DC and Marvel comics that have been running for almost 100 years now, nothing stays consistent. At least, not everything stays consistent. Do you think Peter Parker has only had like 2 or 3 girlfriends throughout the 60-something years he's been out fighting crime? No, he has not. He's actually had a lot more, quite a few more actually. So, different runs in different decades offer completely different versions of characters you know and love. The main thing that instantly told me that this comic was going to be different from Tom King's run of Supergirl is the fact that Supergirl is not just one woman. In fact, she's 2 women, one being Kryptonian, which makes sense because that's what the super people are, right? And the other woman, spoiler alert for the first 2 issues of the run if you really care, was named Linda Danvers, who was a Satan-worshipping cultist who was convinced by this guy that looks really similar to Sanji to go out and kill people. And I guess do whatever is happening in this image too. She fused with this lady and she's lost her memories of being both Supergirl and Linda Danvers and has to piece things back together to figure out what the hell is going on. Now, that's crazy and insanely different from what I was just taught about this character, but it's a dope ass premise that had me interested. The end of issue 2 was her realizing who she's actually fused with and realizes that she's gonna have to deal with 2 beings in her head. This is interesting. So, what could be next? What? The final night? What's the final night? Whatever, I guess I'll just keep reading. The sun has vanished. They looked at me in terror. What happened? Literally the last chapter we had a sun. They want their lives back. Who took their lives? For details about this cataclysm, see the Final Night miniseries. Okay. What the hell? The Justice League? Is that Starfire? Sister. That's not Blackfire. Superman has a mullet? Who are you people? One of the main issues I've got with reading comics that are sharing a universe together is that plot points will converge, which sounds amazing on paper and has led to some of the best and most iconic comic book events to this day, like Civil War, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and so much more. But let's say you want to read one of these events. Let's take Civil War for example, a 7-issue event, right? Sounds simple, but if you want complete context for the story, there's a few more you're gonna have to read. All of this is coming from the official Marvel website, and this is gonna take a while, I'm not gonna lie. So to start off, Amazing Spider-Man 1999 issues 529 to 531. Then Fantastic Four 1998 issues 536 through 537, and then New Avengers Illuminati One Shot 1 2006. Then we got Civil War 2006 number 1. Okay, that took a bit to get to the first issue of the event, but like that was lead up, so of course there's gonna be something like that. I've honestly got no issues, so the next one should just be Civil War issue 2, right? She-Hulk 2005 number 8. What the hell? Next is Wolverine 2003 number 42. Then it's Amazing Spider-Man 1999 number 532. Then it's Civil War Frontline 2006 number 1. Wait, What's the difference between Civil War and Civil War Frontline? Apparently, Frontline covers the war through the eyes of civilians, journalists, and whatnot, which actually sounds pretty cool, and I low-key want to check this one out. And then finally, we get to Civil War issue number 2. And then after that, there's Thunderbolts 2006, number 103. Then it's Civil War Frontline number 2. Then it's X Factor number 8. Jeez, I barely know X Factor. I do not know what they had going on in 2005. So guess I gotta read the 7 issues before that. I don't know. Next we have New Avengers 2004 number 21. Then we have Wolverine 2003 number 43. Then we have Amazing Spider-Man 1989 number 533. Then we have Fantastic Four 1998 number 538. Then we have Civil War Frontline number 3. Then Thunderbolts 2006 number 104. Then Civil War X-Men 2000. Then we have Civil War 2006 number 3. And keep in mind, there are 7 issues. I'm not doing any more. You get it. I'm not even halfway done with these. I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I really don't have an issue with Marvel having these side comics that give a lot more context to specific storylines that can't be fit in these less than 10 issue events. But damn, think of a beginner to an average comic book fan. They're going to these stores or ordering off of Amazon, looking at the covers with their favorite characters or some they just want to get more into. So how confusing do you think it is for someone who's just lollygagging in the store and sees this? What makes it even more confusing is seeing the number of the comic book issue that ties into the event. Like, what do you mean the road to Civil War starts with Amazing Spider-Man number 529? How the hell does that make sense? Do I have to read the previous 528 issues from before? I read comics from time to time, and if I didn't know better, I would have just said effort to the whole thing. Now take this entire catalog from just the Civil War event and apply it to more than 100 different events that have occurred in both Marvel and DC over the years. It's intimidating, and that's sort of the issue currently with comics at the moment. People really don't have that much time to figure out these things, and even if they do, who's doing that unless you already have love for it? And that leads me to my next point. There is a manga takeover in the United States, and I know you see it. Over the past 10 years, the manga industry has become more popular in the general population's eye. Just think about what anime and manga people were really talking about like 15 years ago. Most likely Dragon Ball Z or Naruto, right? Now you ask somebody, they'll pull up talking about Reborn as a vending machine and I Now Wander the Dungeon. Who knows that? So why? Why the hell is the comic industry taking a nosedive? It's pretty simple actually. Where do you start to read the story? A relatively easy question to ask with such an insane way of being answered. Let's look at DC actually, as their way of figuring that out is a lot easier than Marvel's. Since DC has been going on since the 30s, it'd be a little difficult for readers to go all the way back and basically read from there, because it's almost 100 years worth of content to go through. So DC has actually over the years begun to reboot the story to modernize and make it a bit easier for access for newer readers. There's been Crisis on Infinite Earths, 0 Hour, Infinite Crisis, Flashpoint was created, the New 52 reboot, and now the newest one in 2016 being Rebirth. 2016 is relatively recent, so let's just check to see how to begin reading DC's Rebirth. I'm not doing this again. That's crazy. Okay, I'm being a little bit hard on DC, especially since this is how comics have been operating for years, and that's the appeal of them for the fans of the comics. All of these crossover series that focus on specific teams and whatnot only work because of the separate stories clashing together. But come on, no regular person is going to be keeping up with all this. And don't even get me started on Marvel. They refuse to do a reboot. Oftentimes they'll do retcons and whatnot and sort of hit a refresh, but nothing like DC has. So where the hell does someone wanting to get into Marvel start? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. Low-key, just search up whatever character or group you want to read about and pray that the writers in the comment sections know what they're talking about. It's worked for me for the most part. Manga and anime don't have this problem because there isn't a complicated, intricate, shared universe between the different stories. It's really simple to start actually. You see what looks interesting and you start from chapter 1. Like, how do you read Naruto? You start from chapter 1. One Piece, chapter 1. You just pick it up really quickly. And for stories like My Hero that have a spin-off, that's kinda it. They'll have maybe 1 or 2 spin-offs that are really easy to pick up. And that's why it's sort of painful when it comes to comics nowadays. Some of my favorite stories of all time stem from them, and it would be so much better if they could be widely more appreciated. but I can't be too mad at general audiences for steering away from stories that are inconvenient to read. But don't let this deter you. I'm here to save the day. Both Marvel and DC have reading guides to help readers specifically figure out what the hell is even going on. On DC's, you can sort by storylines. There's classics, crossover, easy reads, events, major moments, modern hits, and start here. If you want to really start getting into comics or just kind of stuck on where to go next, honestly, just look at the start here or easy read section. Marvel's is a little bit harder to navigate, but there's still a lot to find out there. There are so many guides out there. Look, Reddit has a bad rep, but for comic books and figuring out where to go specifically, there are so many guides, people are willing to help out. Honestly, just have fun. There are so many fire stories out there. Just don't read Jeff Loeb's Supergirl, the Girl of Steel.